And a very good Monday morning. Another edition of the GSMC Baseball Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Kenneth Gruenfelder, and as always, it is very nice to have you guys today. Very bad weather here on the East Coast this weekend and today as well. But a lot to talk about. A lot happened this weekend in the baseball world. But as always, before we start the show, to get your comments recognized, or to donate, go to streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. That's to support the show. And also to sign up for the Patreon, you go to patreon.com and search up GSMC Sports Network. And that's where you can get bonus coverage materials that are not covered by this live show. But yeah, like I said, I have a lot to talk about on today's show. So obviously what we normally do is we'll start off the show with going through the latest news and headlines around the league. Then we're going to talk about the American League West and what happened over the weekend with that, because there was a shift in that with the three teams. Rangers and Mariners played each other this weekend. The Astros played the Royals, and there were two sweeps in those regarding those two series, and it's one of them is not what you expected. So we'll get into that, and then we will get more into the American League playoff picture in the third segment. So we'll go over the other scores regarding that. You know, with the AL East still up for grabs, Orioles still hold a lead over the Rays, and you got the Blue Jays involved with the American League West teams. So we'll get into that, and then in the final segment, we'll talk about the National League playoff picture and what happened with that. And I'll give a spoiler for that. Padres are done. You know, I saw a TikTok, and they talked about the Padres too, and how there might be a possibility they could maybe sneak in. And you know, the comments were, you're just doing that for clicks. Like, it's it's not going to happen. Which, listen, I pretty much knew that it was going to be a long shot for it. But I thought, based on the schedule and the way teams were struggling and dealing with injuries, I thought, maybe there is a chance. But the Padres did lose over the weekend one of their games to the Cardinals in extra innings. So, yeah, it's not going to happen. Right now, their number to be eliminated is 2. So, yeah, it's not going to happen. But, hey, it was fun while it lasted, but listen, it's something that I said, so of course it's not going to happen. But yeah, so that's basically the rundown for today's show. So right now, with the first segment, let's get into some of the latest headlines. So one of the things, and I guess I'll get this out of the way, so the Yankees were eliminated from playoff contention. And Aaron Judge talked about it after the game yesterday. Yankees have lost the first 2 games to the Diamondbacks. They play Game 3 today because over the weekend there was a rain out. And he talked about how there's going to be a lot of internal discussions and, the seasons of failure and all that, and that changes need to be made. And listen, as a Yankee fan, I don't really... Well, first of all, there's really going to be no major changes regarding manager and general manager. Boone and Cashman are both going to be back. They just are. And the Yankees have had one of their worst seasons in years. And, it's crazy that there's not going to be major changes regarding that. So for me, it's like, well, what are the changes going to be? Now, you're hoping that they go out and they, maybe get some more left-handed bats. They get more contact guys. There's a lot they have to do. And I don't know if they're going to be able to solve it in one offseason, because you look at the division and the Orioles are really good. They're not going anywhere. And I mentioned, and I've talked about this, in a previous show. The Orioles are not going anywhere. The Rays are not going anywhere. The Blue Jays are not going anywhere. And you figure the Red Sox, they're going to figure it out, and they're going to be a very good team again. So where does that leave the Yankees? They got to catch up. Aaron Boone a couple years ago said the league is catching up to us. The league has passed you. It has passed the Yankees for years, but for some reason they act like that's not the case. But so there'll be no playoffs for the Yankees this year officially, but we've known that for weeks. But they've just been pulling at us because they were still mathematically in it. But the Diamondbacks, though, that was important to take these first two games because they got that second wild card spot in the National League, and they're going for the sweep today. So it looks like they will be in the playoffs. They will be that second wild card team. But we'll see, because we have approached. Because the other thing is this is the last week of the regular season. October 1st is the last day. So it goes into next week. But this is basically the last week of the regular season. And there's still a lot that needs to be decided with the wild cards, with some of the divisions. So we'll see. It's going to be a crazy final week. And speaking of divisions, so the Twins, they clinched the AL Central, which you knew was going to happen. With the teams behind them, the Guardians, they traded people. They kind of gave up on the season, and everybody else in the division is not really that good. The Royals, one of the worst records in baseball, but we'll get into why that really didn't matter this weekend. Later in the show, but the Twins, that was pretty much a wrap there, and now we'll just have to see who they play in the playoffs, because they're going to play either an AL West team or they're going to play the Blue Jays. And again, anything can happen, but the Twins and their recent track record in the playoffs, I don't know if they're going to last. I don't know if they're going to last in the playoffs, but we'll see. We'll just have to wait and see. You don't want to guarantee anything, but that's kind of where I lean as of right now. But again, the way I've been talking about things, they could go far in the playoffs. But again, we will just have to wait and see on that. Also, over the weekend, and this was a big loss for the Reds, but the Pirates had their largest comeback in franchise history. They were down 9-0 to the Reds. I think was it on Friday, I believe, Friday's game. Take a quick look. It was not Friday. I think it was Saturday's game. Saturday's game. They were down 9-0 going into the fourth inning, and they scored 1 in the fourth, 5 in the sixth, 3 in the seventh, 4 in the eighth, and then the Reds put up 3 runs between the eighth and the ninth inning, and they fell short, 13-12. So yeah, they blew a 9-0 lead, the Reds, which again, and we'll go into it in the final segment when we talk about the wild card and just the National League playoff picture in general, but that is not a loss you want to have at this point in the year. And blowing a 9-0 lead. Now, it's happened before. Bring up the Yankees very quickly. 2012, the Yankees were down 9-0 against the Red Sox in Fenway, and they came back and they won that game. I think it was like 15-9. Was it 15-9? I don't know, but it was. I know the Yankees had 15 runs. I don't know if the Red Sox scored again, but it's happened before. But for the Pirates, this is the largest comeback in franchise history. And quick thing with the Pirates, so they were eliminated from playoff contention. And a quick thing, so in high school, a good friend of mine, we made a bet, and it was a very dumb bet, but it's still going. I think this was like the 4th or 5th year that this bet's been going on. So for every year that the Pittsburgh Pirates do not win the World Series, he has to pay me $1. And the year that they win the World Series, I have to pay him $100. Now, what the term should have been was, for every year that the Pirates don't win, that $1 is subtracted from the $100 that I owe him, which I did not do. Did not think. So, but I am right now 4 or 5. I honestly don't remember. It was either 4 or 5 years. But yeah, every year that they don't win, I get $1. Now the Pirates, it's gonna be a while. It's gonna be a while. And they got off to a very good start this year. And it looked like, hey, maybe this is the year that they, finally make it back to the postseason. And that was not the case. That was not the case. So, who knows? But once again, got my my yearly dollar from my friend. So again, there's always next year. And they just tried to get me so nervous. They were like, "Oh, the Pirates are doing really good. Oh, this could be," and I'm like, "I'm not worried about it." And guess what? Then they tanked. They went under 500, and then that was it. So, but hopefully better days are ahead for Pirates fans, because that's another fan base that's really been itching for something. I mean, they had those few years where they did make the playoffs, and they had some good teams, but they just never could get past the division series or even the wild card sometimes. I mean, they lost to the Giants one of the years the Giants won the World Series. I think it was was it 2014 or 2012? I think it was one of those 2 years. Yeah, they just can't get out of their own way. But yeah, so and then another thing, this was another thing I saw. So Mookie Betts 105 RBIs, most RBIs out of a leadoff spot in a single season, and he's having an incredible season. Now, unfortunately for him, and there's an article that MLB came out with, a lot of the key storylines going into the final week, and one of them is the MVP race. It's going to be Ronald Acuna. But Mookie Betts has had an incredible season, and also Matt Olson, of course, of the Braves. And we talked about that last week. But it's safe to say, I think, at this point, that Acuna is going to get the MVP. He's got 40 home runs now, almost 70 stolen bases. I mean, he's been awesome this year. And if it wasn't for that, then, Mookie's got a great shot. I mean, he still does, but Acuna is, I think, MVP. So, and also my friend sent a poll, and it was, what MVP would you rather have, 2023 Acuna or 2022 Judge? And it was like a wide gap. Like most, like I gotta let me see if I could find it. Yeah, like a lot of people picked Acuna. Now that could be because not people don't like the Yankees, but I mean what Acuna is doing is amazing. I mean around 70 stolen bases. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to find it, but yeah, it was a Twitter poll or X. It's always gonna be Twitter. But, oh yeah, here it is. I found it. So, yeah, 76% picked Acuna, 24% picked Judge. I mean, listen, I don't really care if Acuna's got more. What I care more so about is, like, the gap. That it's just, like, that lopsided, that more people picked Acuna. I think it should be a little bit closer, but again, everybody's got a different opinion. But Acuna's having a great season, an amazing season. It's just, I mean, Judge hit 62 home runs last year. The most in the American League history. I guess. Well, I mean, I don't know. I think it should be a little bit closer, but I can understand why. But, it's a Yankee fan talking. And again, I'm not saying that Judge should, be leading in that poll. Most people should have picked Judge. I mean, Acuna is one of the best players in baseball, in his own right. I mean, I think Judge is a better hitter when he's healthy, but, I mean, Acuna's having a season for the ages with what he's doing. So I just think that the gap is just too wide there, but that's all right. But yeah, that's pretty much it when it comes to the headlines. So with that, we are going to take our first break of the show, and then when we come back, we are going to talk about the American League West. We are going to give an American League West update because a lot of stuff happened over the weekend regarding that. So when we come back, we'll discuss that. So stick around, and we will be right back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we're going to talk about the American League West, give an update on that because a lot happened over the weekend. So on Friday, and pretty much, the whole week, I talked about the Houston Astros, and I said this team is going to win the division. Feel confident in that. Obviously, they've dealt with some struggles over the course of the season, but I felt as though, listen, this is the time of the year where they're going to figure it out, and they're going to be fine. They're going to be okay. And that was not the case. The Astros last week, or, almost 2 weeks ago, they played a series against the Royals, and they lost 2 out of 3 against the Royals. The Kansas City Royals. And the Kansas City Royals are a very bad team. They have lost over 100 games. Do they currently have the worst record in baseball? No, they don't. The A's have won 108. But the Royals are right behind them with 102 losses. So, this past weekend, they started a 3-game set. They had a 3-game set in Houston against the Royals. Now, there were 2 sweeps. The Rangers swept the Mariners, and the Royals swept the Astros. I don't even know what to say. I really don't. And so what I did was I went on Instagram, and I went on an Astros fan page, and I was reading all the comments. And honestly, it's kind of like reading a Yankee fan page, because you're just like, yeah, Yankee fans were constantly complaining this season. It's like I was reading that on the Astros fan page. I mean, it's just talking about how the team just not been good, and a lot of them are calling for Dusty Baker to be gone after this year. I guess with how he manages, the pitching staff. But yeah, I'm at a loss for words. And this was in Houston, And the crazy thing is, and I made sure to write this down. So the Astros ended up finishing with a losing record at home, with a 39-42 record. And this is the first time they have done that since 2014. And this was the year before, everything went right with, when Correa and Altuve and all them. This is, because 2015 was when they, they first broke through, with Springer as well. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what to say. It was a rough weekend for them. They're 3-12 in their last 15 games. And they are 2-7 versus the Royals and the A's. And like I just mentioned, the A's have 108 losses. That is horrible. And with that now, the Astros are now in the wild card. Now again, I said anything can happen. I said if the Astros aren't careful, they could find themselves in the wild card spot. Right now, yeah, they're 3-7 in their last 10 games. Right now they sit at 85-71. And the Mariners are a half game back of them. And the reason for that is the Mariners got swept by the Rangers. And as you guys know, I did say on a previous show, and you can go back and look for it, I did say I think the Rangers will be on the outside looking in, based off of the injuries they're dealing with their pitching staff, how they've been struggling. And I'm not going to bet against the Astros, but the Rangers have played very well, really, since I said that. They did get swept by the Guardians in between all of that madness. But they've been playing very well. They've won 5 in a row. They're 87-68. Right now, they're 2.5 games up on the Astros, and they're 3 up on the Mariners. And they're in the driver's seat right now. And the magic number is 5. So, again, anything can happen in this final week of the season. But it's right now it looks like it's the Rangers division. So we'll go through the scores from Friday. So we'll go through the Astros first. So they lost 7-5 on Friday. And that was a good pitching matchup. You had Raggins, who was a part of that trade for Chapman. And Valdez was on the mound. Royals put up a 4 spot in the first inning. Bobby Witt Jr., RBI triple. MJ Melendez, he singled. Edward Olivares doubled, make it 3-0. And then Nick Lofton, he had a sac fly, so that was 4-0. Yordan Alvarez, he had an RBI double in the bottom of the first. Jose Abreu had a solo shot. Nick Prado had a ground out that scored a run in the top of the 6th. Isbell had a single to make it 7-2. And Chas McCormick hit a 3-run home run in the bottom of the 8th. And that was the final score, 7-5. So then Saturday's game, Astros lost 3-2. Jordan Lyles picked up the win. Jordan Lyles, who had 4 wins going into the season, he picked up his 5th win. He was 4-17 going into this game. And the Astros did nothing against him. The Astros offense was non-existent against Jordan Lyles. He went 5 innings, but he only gave up 2 hits, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. Jordan Lyles, 17 losses, and you couldn't do anything against him. I mean, it's very bad. It's very bad. So, Melendez had a sac fly, Bobby Witt Jr. ground out that scored a run, Chas McCormick hit a home run, Kyle Tucker had an RBI double. This was in the bottom of the 8th. They got their 2 runs in the 7th and the 8th, and then they didn't do anything. And then we get to Sunday's game, and they lost that game 6-5. Astros, they scored in the first inning. They were up 1-0. And Royals, they put 3 runs up in both the second and the third inning. Astros put up a run in the bottom of the second. They put up 2 in the bottom of the third. And then they scored one more time. And that was basically it. Yeah, Jose Abreu led off the first inning with an RBI double. Scored Altuve. Nelson Velasquez, he homered to tie it. Matt Duffy. Man, Matt Duffy's still around, huh? 2-run home run. Make it 3-1. Altuve had a ground out that scored a run. Salvador Perez hit a home run to make it 5-2. Velasquez homered again. Make it 6-2. Chas McCormick ground out that scored a run. And then Yainer Diaz ground out that scored another run. And then Yordan Alvarez hit a home run. Make it 6-5. And that was it. That was it. Astros get swept by the Kansas City Royals. And listen, I did say on Friday, Astros got a sweep. They got a sweep. There's no excuse that they shouldn't. They're at home, not a good team. That's a series that they should sweep. And there was a sweep. The Royals were the ones that swept the Astros, not the other way around. And the big question is now, are the Astros in trouble? Yeah, they are. They play the Mariners now, who are fighting for their playoff lives because they're a half game out now. They're the team that's on the outside looking in. And if the Astros aren't too careful, they're going to be the team that's going to be on the outside looking in. And again, it's still up for grabs. You got them playing each other for 3 games, and then the Rangers and the Mariners play again. I think a 4-game set to conclude the season. And then that's it. So the division might be over. The American League West might be over. But there's those wild card spots that you got to figure it out. Because one of them is not going to make it. And the Blue Jays right now, I mean, they're the other team that's involved in all this. And we'll get into more of that when we go over the American League playoff picture. Right now, they're 2 games up on the Astros for that second wild card. So, you know, there's still time for, the Blue Jays could collapse, and then that changes a lot. Like, the way this playoff race has been in both leagues, something is always changing. So, right now, Blue Jays got the second spot. You got the Mariners and the Astros. That could all change. Especially in this last week of the season. So, but yeah, Mariners had a rough week in Texas, so we'll run through that very quickly. They lost Friday's game 8-5. Dunning picked up the win. Miller picked up the loss. So the Rangers, that was an important game. They got off to a good start with that series. Then you get into Saturday's game. Rangers won 2-0. Jordan Montgomery pitched very well in this game. So Montgomery got the win. Chapman got the save. So you got 2 former Yankees, helping them in a pennant race. So we'll look at Montgomery. So he went 7 innings, 5 hits, no runs, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts. And like I said, Chapman picked up the save there. The scoring in that, Mitch Garver had a single, and Jonah Heim had a single as well that scored a run. Bottom of the second was Mitch Garver's, and bottom of the fourth was Jonah Heim. So that was a 2-0 win for the Rangers. And then to cap off the sweep, this was a high-scoring affair. 9-8 was the final score. Rangers take that. Eovaldi picked up his 12th win on the season. Marcus Semien, he started off the game with a home run to make it 1-0. Teoscar Hernandez homered in the top of the second to tie it. J.P. Crawford hit a home run to make it 2-1. Corey Seager hit his 33rd home run of the season to make it 3-2 Texas. Adolis Garcia hit his 36th. Tavares hit a home run to make it 6-2, a 2-run shot. Semien hit another home run, so a lot of power in this game by the Rangers. Kelenic had a ground out that scored a run in the top of the 6th. Suarez sacrificed fly to make it 7-4. Sam Haggerty, he tripled to make it 7-5. Evan Carter hit a 2-run home run to make it 9-5. Teoscar Hernandez singled in the top of the 7th to make it 9-6. Kelenic singled to make it 9-7. And then Suarez hit a single to make it 9-8. So the Mariners tried to come back, but they fell short. And they ended up getting swept. And they are the team that's on the outside looking in. So right now, they got 3 against Houston at home, and then they got 4 against Texas at home. So what benefits them is all their games are at home. So that's good for them. I mean, I don't want to make a prediction, but I think right now you're leaning towards Texas is going to take the division right now. And listen, because the Mariners and the Astros are going to be playing each other, so that helps Texas a lot. So Texas right now is playing, they play the Angels. So, yeah, you kind of got to like Texas to get it done, and especially with the other 2 teams playing each other. But then it's all about that third wild card spot. Now, again, the Blue Jays, they could collapse, and then you got the Mariners and the Astros in. But I don't know. Right now, I think the Blue Jays are fine. I think it's just going to come down to the Mariners and the Astros. And both of them just got swept. And somebody's got to win the series that they're playing now in Seattle. So we're just gonna have to wait and see. But it's a big series coming up, so make sure to pay close attention to that, especially if you're a fan of both of those teams. And so that's basically this segment with the American League West. So when we come back from our second break, we are going to look at the overall playoff picture, which we kind of did, but we'll touch upon the scores again from this weekend involving some of the other games. Blue Jays and the Rays played each other. The Twins wrapped up the Central, so we'll talk about that for a little bit. So that'll be the third segment of the show when we come back. So stick around, and we will be right back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC baseball podcast. Ooh, I just hit my mic. And for the third part of the show, we are going to talk about the American League playoff picture, the entire playoff picture, not just the American League West, even though most of the teams from the American League West have a lot to do with the playoff picture right now. So, with the graphic here, this is the, I'm sorry, right here. I'm so bad. Here we go. That's what I was trying to do. This is the playoff picture right now. Well, the wild card for the American League. So you have the Rays at the top. Again, it's going to be between the Orioles and the Rays for that top wild card spot, and one of them is going to get the division. So one of them is going to have home field advantage, and one of them is going to be playing in the wild card round. So it's still close right now. They're 2.5 games up, the Orioles, on the Rays. Rays were dealing with some injuries this weekend. Arozarena was hurt. Their setup man was hurt. I was just looking at one of the articles on MLB. And also Yandy Diaz, he left the game over the weekend with an injury. But Kevin Cash, I think, said it was a precautionary measure. So Rays were dealing with some injuries. And again, especially at this point in the year, that's not what you want. So you're hoping that for them, they get their guys back. And they, I mean, they're either way. I mean, they're either going to have home field advantage or they're going to have the top wild card spot. It's not. I mean, obviously, you want that. You want the division, of course, but even if you're in the wild card, you're still going to be playing games at the Trop. So, also, quick thing. Forgive me if you hear some banging downstairs again. Dad's working on the house, so. But I don't think he's going to be vacuuming like he did that one time last week, 2 weeks ago. So, yeah. So just we're just going to deal with that. It's fine. Not a big deal. But yeah. So Rays and Orioles, they're fighting for the division. Blue Jays right now sitting at 87 and 69. They are 2 games up on the Astros. And right now, yeah, they hold that second wild card spot. And I think, again, barring a collapse, I think it's safe to say that the Blue Jays are going to be right where they are, and they're going to have that second spot. Because now they're off today, the Blue Jays, but then they have the Yankees coming to town for 3 games. Now, they did win 2 out of 3. They are going to face Garrett Cole at least one more time, so that's going to be tough. But I think the Blue Jays should take that series, so that should get them. I think they at least take 2 out of 3, so that gets you to 89 and 70. And then I think they conclude the season against the Rays. So that's going to be tough. But and I mentioned that last week. But I think the Blue Jays ultimately, and well, the other thing you got to look at is this: if the Orioles wrap up the division, I mean, if the Rays are still fighting for the division, that's one thing. But if the Orioles wrap up the division and the Rays don't really have anything to play for, I mean, could they, sit their guys possibly? It's possible, but they might just, keep playing them because, you want to keep these guys, I don't want to say in shape, but you want to keep these guys, you want to carry that momentum into the postseason. So I think that's what I was trying to say. But, yeah, it's going to be interesting. Yeah, the Blue Jays, I really don't see them having a collapse, even though I said it can happen. I mean, I don't think they're going to lose this series to the Yankees. I mean, the Yankees are not a good team. Now, they're going to have Garrett Cole pitching in one of those games, so they should be having Garrett Cole pitch in one of these games. So that's going to be tough, but they should take 2 out of 3. And then the Rays, well, listen, they took 2 out of 3 from the Rays this weekend. Yeah, so they did what they were supposed to do. Those were big games, and we've talked about how the Blue Jays in big games in the past have kind of, fallen short. But this weekend they stepped up and they did what they were supposed to do. They took 2 out of 3. They won 6-2 on Friday. Bassett picked up the win, his 15th win on the season. And that's against Tyler Glasnow, who's the Rays' best pitcher, you would say, with McClanahan being out for the whole year, the rest of the year. Saturday, they took the loss to the Rays in walk-off fashion. They were up 6-5 going into the ninth inning, and Jordan Romano blew it. So they could have swept the Rays if it wasn't for that. And then yesterday they won 9-5. So, I mean, I like the Blue Jays rotation. You got Gausman, Bassett, Barrios has been good. So that's who I think that's who they're going to be pitching in this series against the Yankees. So, the Blue Jays, they should be okay. I think that they will be okay. And they just played the Rays very well. So I think that second wild card spot is theirs. So, but we'll just have to wait and see. Also, I did talk about the Twins clinching the Central, which you knew that was going to happen. Friday's game against the Angels, they won 8-6. Saturday, they won. Oh, actually, no, they lost 1-0 to the Angels. And then yesterday, they, if I can find it, 9-3. So that was their weekend. They're 83 and 73, and yeah, they got the division. And they're basically locked into that third seed. So they're gonna play whoever is the last wild card team. So that's either gonna be the Mariners or the Astros. And again, kind of favor one of those teams over the Twins, but anything can happen. Hey, listen, you see Correa against his former team in the playoffs. That would be cool to see, but I don't know. And then you got so the Orioles are at 97 and 59. So like I said, they are 2.5 games up on the Rays in the division. Their magic number is 4. So the Orioles play the Nationals. So you figure they should win that series. And then you got the Rays playing the Red Sox. That could be a toss-up. I mean, the Red Sox, the Rays should do well in that series, but it's the Red Sox, still a scrappy team, even though they're under 500 now, because they were over 500 for a while, and then they kind of just fell apart. And right now they're at 76 and 80. So, but I mean, the Orioles, I think right now they should they're 2.5 games up. I mean, you go out and sweep the Nationals, it's pretty much a wrap. So, but again, anything can happen. So, not that many games on tonight. You got Yankees and the Diamondbacks trying to get this series in. Third game today, so that's going to be at 1:05 p.m. Eastern time. You got the Rangers playing the Angels. Astros and Mariners are playing tonight, their series. You got Verlander and Castillo on the mound, so that's a very good pitching matchup. You got the Padres and the Giants. And, that's basically it. Not that many games on tonight. Tomorrow is when we got the full slate. So, but yeah, I mean, that's basically it when you look at the playoff picture. But let me know what you guys think about the playoff picture in the American League, because, it's going to be wild, and especially in this last week of the season. There's still stuff up for grabs. That second and third wild card spot, you got, the AL West is still up for grabs, but right now the Rangers are kind of in the driver's seat for that. American League East right now the Orioles, they're in the driver's seat as well. But again, anything can happen. Anything can happen. I mean, you look at the Astros. They got swept and they went from being in first place in their own division to being the third wild card in the American League and only being a half game up on the Mariners. And now they're playing the Mariners in Seattle. So, and listen, Justin Verlander's got to step up. Going up against Luis Castillo, who's a Cy Young candidate in his own right. So it's going to be that's going to be a great series. And again, especially when you got those two teams coming off of getting swept, both of them, somebody's got it. Somebody has to win tonight. Somebody's got to win tonight, and we could very well see. We could very well see the Mariners find themselves back in tonight with a win. But we could also see the Astros build their lead up on the Mariners and try to get themselves if they win and if they beat the Mariners, that adds a game to their lead. So, but yeah, it is really going to be crazy down the stretch, and it's the I mean, I can't believe it's the final week. And there's really, I mean, the only thing that's really cemented is the Twins and their playoff spot, like where they're going to be, because they're the third seed. They're basically locked in. I mean, I guess there's still a chance they could pass the Rangers, but like I don't think that's going to happen. That's not going to happen, right? I don't think so. No. I mean, a lot would need to happen. I don't think the Rangers would have to basically lose out, which it's not going to happen. So I don't know. But yeah, I mean, you look at it, it's, I mean, I don't know what else to say. I mean, it's going to be hectic. That's really just the only spot that you just know that, yeah, the Twins are going to be the third seed playing in the first round. And that's it. So, but yeah, that's basically the American League playoff picture. And in the final segment of the show, we are going to talk about the NL playoff picture. And a lot of stuff happened with that. I know I was trying to talk up the Padres because they still had a chance. But their chances were kind of hurt, both more so because of the fact that other teams did well this weekend, and that kind of hurt their chances. So yeah, I just wanted it to happen for the chaos, but yeah, it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. Padres, unfortunately, will not be making the postseason this year. But listen, we're getting some new teams in, so it's gonna be cool to see. So yeah, but yeah, that's the third segment of today's show. So in the final segment of the show, we're going to talk about the National League playoff picture and where everything there currently stands. We'll go through the scores regarding those games, and then that'll basically be it for the live stream portion of the show. And again, I want to remind you guys to support the show with donations and tips. You go to streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. Again, that really helps out the show. And then once again, for bonus coverage materials that are not covered on this live stream broadcast, go to patreon.com and search up GSMC Sports Network, and that is where you will find, when you sign up, you will find the exclusive Patreon content of this broadcast as well, of this podcast show, as well as you'll find the others as well, the fantasy football and the college football and basketball. Not college basketball in general. So yeah, that's just wanted to throw that in there, the business portion of the broadcast. But yeah, so we will take our final break of the show, and then when we come back, we are going to talk about the National League playoff picture. So stick around, and we will be right back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we are going to talk about the National League playoff picture. So before I get into that, over this weekend, again, another crazy week of football, right? As well as a crazy week of baseball. The one thing I just want to mention is Listen. It's been a long time since there's been 60 points. A team has scored 60 points in an NFL game. And the last time that was done, I was like 10, 11 years old. Yesterday, the Miami Dolphins scored 70 points against the Denver Broncos. And I never thought I would see that. And, well, probably the funniest thing that I saw out of yesterday was ESPN posted a video. And so the most points scored by a team in a single game was 72. And the Dolphins could have broke the record by kicking a field goal. And Mike McDaniel, the head coach, he took a knee. He just kneed it, and they didn't do anything. And the caption was, because he did that, classy move by McDaniel. And I go, classy move? They put up 70 points on a team. And what? And you're calling it classy? I don't know. But yeah, that was wild to see. But yeah, I just wanted to and now everyone's calling the Broncos just a mess. It's bad. But I just thought that was very funny. But anyways, so let's get into, speaking of crazy, let's get into the National League playoff picture. Smooth transition there. So a lot happened this weekend regarding that. So I know on the last 2 days, of the week, last week, I said, hey, the San Diego Padres got a soft schedule to finish the year. Teams are struggling. Who's to say it's not impossible? Who's to say it's not possible for them to somehow sneak in? Well, they're not going to. They are not going to. Right now, they got 2 more games, and then they're eliminated, whether it's them losing or teams winning ahead of them. They will not be making the playoffs. Them and the Giants, they did technically pass the Giants, but, right now they're ahead of the Giants, but the Giants and them are tied for the same record. They will not be making it. So it's really going to come down to, the Reds are 2.5 games back, but I think right now they might be done as well. I think right now it's going to come down to the Marlins and the Cubs. That's really what you got to focus on. So right now, and I got to switch this around actually. So sorry about that. Oh, I clicked the wrong thing. Nope, that's not what I wanted to do. There we go. Okay, and we got that, and there we go. Okay, that's what we were trying to do. So right now, as it currently stands, you have the Phillies, 87 and 69. They're up on the Diamondbacks. They got the top spot, which they're most likely going to keep. Then you got the Diamondbacks at 82 and 73, who are a half game up on the Cubs. And the Cubs are at 82 and 74. The Cubs, big weekend for them. They swept the Rockies, and that's what they were supposed to do. And because of that, that is why the Padres are pretty much done. Because the Cubs did not play well against the Pirates. So I thought, hey, Padres got a shot. Now, the Padres did lose one of their games against the Cardinals, and it was in extra innings. And with that, the Padres are 0-12 in extra inning games this season. 0-12. Now, again, I thought the Yankees were bad in extra innings, but oh no. There is a team that is worse than that. I mean, the Yankees at least have won extra innings. The Padres are 0-12. And you flip some of those games around, and you could be one of those wild card teams right there. And again, that's why, going back to last week when I talked about some of the teams' records, if you flipped all the one-run games, Padres are in the playoffs. And if they win some of those games in extra innings, they are in the playoffs right now. Or at least right there with the Marlins, trying to catch the Cubs. So it's crazy that that's even possible. But yeah, again, you got the Diamondbacks are half game up. So they took the first two games against the Yankees. I mean, they go for the sweep. That's a big win. Every win is huge at this point in the season. So I mean, I think the Diamondbacks should go out there and sweep the Yankees. They should. They need this final game. Cubs are right behind them. So, but yeah, I think as of right now, I think the Reds. I think they're kind of out of it. They're 2.5 games back. Anything's possible, but I think right now, it's you got the Marlins, Diamondbacks, and Cubs. That's it right there. Marlins had a good weekend, they didn't have a good first game, but they did win Saturday and Sunday against the Brewers because Friday's game. So Corbin Burns was on the mound, and it was going to be a tough game. It was. It was 0-0 after the first inning, but in the top of the second inning, the Brewers put up 12 runs. 12. And the Marlins never had a chance. Josh Donaldson hit a 2-run home run. William Contreras, a single that scored a run. Carlos Santana doubled. Mark Hanna doubled. Sal Frelick singled. Josh Donaldson grounded out that scored a run. Bryce Terang, he singled. Blake Perkins, double. Christian Yelich, home run. 12-0. 12-0. Yelich hit a 3-run home run, another home run, so that ended up, Santana hit a single before that. Yelich hit a 3-run homer. It was 16-0. And then John Birdie hit a solo and a home run, and final score was 16-1. So, yeah, the weekend did not get off to a good start for the Marlins, to put it lightly. However, they won 5-4 against the Brewers. The Brewers were losing 4-0 the whole game. They scored four, not the whole game, but most of the game. They put up a 4 spot in the top of the 6th to tie the game at 4. And then the Marlins got a run in the bottom of the 8th, and that led to them winning. It was on an awful wild pitch. And they ended up winning the game 5-4. Jake Berger actually he came back, so that injury wasn't too serious. He hit a 3-run home run. 34 home runs on the season for Jake Berger. So again, I just want to look at his stats with the Marlins. I mean, his overall stats this year are great. 250, 34 home runs, 79 RBIs, 843 OPS. But you look at his stats. So with the White Sox this year in 88 games, 214 batting average, on base was 279, 527 slugging, and 806 OPS. Now the slugging is around the same. Batting average 313, on base percentage 369, OPS 903. Now again, 48 games, but he has been great for the Marlins. And Arise was back in the lineup, so that's big. So the Marlins, the guys that were out of the lineup, they're back in, and that's huge. So they still have a chance, and Cubs got to be careful because if they slip up, they're done. They're not making the playoffs, and it does not get easy for the Cubs. Oh no, it does not, because they have a date with the Atlanta Braves. Now the Braves are still, playing for home field. They're pretty much going to get it, but it's not solidified yet. So the Cubs have to deal with the Braves in Atlanta, and then they got to play 3 in Milwaukee. Now, the Brewers pretty much have the division wrapped up. They just need to win one game. The magic number's down to 1. So they're going to get it. So you think maybe the Brewers decide, we clinched, we're good. We're pretty much going to be that third team. I don't know. They sit people. Or, again, play your starters. So, I don't really know. Like baseball, like football, they do it. I mean, it's different, but it could happen. It could happen, but yeah, not good for the Cubs right now. I mean, they swept the Rockies, so that was big. But yeah, they got a very hard schedule coming up. And as for the Marlins, they got 3 against the Mets and then 3 against Pittsburgh. So right now, kind of favor the Marlins. Kind of have to favor the Marlins that they're going to get it done and sneak in. And the Cubs, and that would mean the Cubs are out. And then the Diamondbacks, they got the Yankees for one more game. They got the White Sox, and then they got the Astros. So right now, based off of the schedule, Cubs are going to be on the team that's on the outside looking in. At least in my opinion. But that does not mean that the Cubs can't shock the world. And I mean, it's not like the Cubs are a bad team, so I can't really say like shock the world. But the Cubs go out and then maybe take the series against the Braves. I mean, they got Justin Steele pitching tonight. So, or not tonight, but tomorrow. So that's big. Even though he didn't pitch well his last start against Elder, who's 12-4 with a 3.63 ERA. So that's going to be that's going to still be a tough game. Then they got Tyone on Wednesday. Yeah, it's gonna against the Braves. That's going to be rough. That's going to be a little rough. Yeah, Tyone has not pitched well for the Cubs this year. Against the Yankees, he pitched good. But yeah, 8-10, 5+ ERA. Yeah, not good. So yeah, well, I mean, right now, I think that right now you got to favor the Marlins at this point. But again, it's always changing. It is always changing, and we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, that's basically the playoff picture right now for the National League. Braves are going to get home field advantage most likely. Dodgers are going to be the 2 seed. So those teams are going to have byes. Brewers are going to be playing in the wild card round against either the Cubs, Diamondbacks, or the Marlins. That's what it looks like right now. So, and then you got the Phillies with the top spot, and they're going to play whatever happens with those 3 teams as well. Because Diamondbacks are only a half game up, so they could have a slip up, and then they could be out of it. It's wild. It's just that's why they call it the wild card, I guess. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it with today's show. A lot of stuff happened over the weekend regarding the standings. Things changed, and yeah, tomorrow. I didn't go over it today, but we'll go over the power rankings that were released this week, and I'll give my thoughts on that. We'll recap the games from tonight. Talk about the standings. And, yeah, that'll basically be the rundown for tomorrow. So after this, I will record the Patreon. So, again, if you want to subscribe to the Patreon, you go to patreon.com and you search up GSMC Sports Network. And that's where you'll get the exclusive content that you do not get on this live broadcast. But, again, a great show, as always. And I will be back again tomorrow. 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern Time. So make sure to tune in for that. And pretty sure all the shows from last week are up, the broken down segments of them. So they're up, and also they're on Spotify as well. So if you missed anything from last week, you can go check that out. I appreciate it. Leave a comment, subscribe to the video, and a like. And I'll try to get to all the comments as best as I can. And, yeah, that's basically a wrap for today's show. So, again, I thank you guys for tuning in and watching. So, as always, I am Kenneth Grunfelder signing off from the GSMC Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day. I'll see you guys tomorrow. And, yeah, take care.